What is going on, guys? So, Crew3 podcast. We'll be over two co-hosts, Chris and Ricky. Of course. Wow, we are.
Woo! Good start.
We're excited.
Start.
This is a huge episode.
This is
huge.
Yeah. So I'm Ruckman. Below me are Chris and Ricky. If you're watching the videos, well, if you watch the video,
I'm
of the
next
podcast.
to you.
Yeah. Ladders, you go side by side.
That's right.
No, well, if you watch the video podcast, I'm on the top.
But I'm the best one.
Again, we have not been able to independently confirm that.
Oh gosh.
So get ready for probably one of the feistier episodes of the Crew3 podcast because no event results matter this week because on Monday
we have a new format.
Because it's safe to say when you have a new toy, you have to use it. So when you have a new yearly ban list, you have to use it.
You don't say you're going to we're going to do a yearly ban list, and then your first one you just go, no bans.
When you build the Warwolf, you can't go home without using the Warwolf.
Yeah, exactly. You know? I don't care.
We don't care if you surrendered. You're going to go back inside until we use it. Then you can surrender.
Then you could surrender.
Actually, hold on. I forgot, though. There are 10 cards spoiled. I do want to talk about those real quick.
Want to go for that first? Want to go over that real quick? Okay, hold on.
Real quick. So next week we'll be covering the ban reactions and then whatever more info we get from Gen Con. So this weekend at the Pro Tour we got 7 cards spoiled? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, the basic lands, and then we get an idea of what the extra sheet is. Hey, double season being reprinted 2 sets row is pretty hot.
Yeah.
I'm actually super hyped on everything we saw, actually.
I'm really excited for Eldraine. I'm excited for Dragon Hand, Demon Man.
It's been so long since we've had a Magic set printed, which is kind of nice. I've been enjoying the break,
Yeah.
But it's time to get back into it, right? Wizards, they got to be printing cards. So, after 3 months of not printing anything, here we go, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, first look in, I already, Eldraine is probably thematically already one of my favorite sets. So going back to Eldraine and getting the more into the fairy tale side of things with 2 colored sets, I think is going to be really fun. I am all in for Eldraine. I'm really hopeful for this set. And I think some of these first cards, they're pretty good. I mean, let's start with just the common, right? I mean, Sleight of Hand coming into Pioneer is pretty big.
It's a good card.
Also, great flavor text and art.
It's no Ponder. It's no Preordain.
Yeah.
It's no Opt. It's no Consider.
Yeah.
But it is Sleight of Hand.
It is Sleight of Hand.
And it does get around Shieldred.
It does.
So
that's
nice.
You better bring your gooses with you.
Yeah.
It looks at 2 cards. That's no joke, right? That's the big deal. Is Ponder and Preordain are good because they look at further cards. And Sleight of Hand looks at 2, and you get the selection.
Right. It is sorcery speed. That's the trade-off, right?
True.
But
it's not a problem.
How many of us are playing Opt anymore? I mean, you're just on Consider now, right? It's just you just only play Consider.
I'm going to be playing Sleight, Consider, and Opt because I like free Demi-Liches.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
We're on the Demi-Lich train.
I think this makes a lot of the spell-based decks a lot better.
Uh-huh.
Just another blue cantrip that you could be casting that gives you more card velocity, right?
Sure.
I think it's very good.
Yeah.
I can't wait to play with it.
We got Tough Cookie, a 1 and a green for a 2/2 artifact food golem. It makes a food token. Then for 2 and a green, you can make a non-creature artifact you control become a 4/4 artifact creature till end of turn. And then it also has the food ability. So,
this is just another reason that blue is somehow the worst color for the Ensoul artifact deck.
Right. Yeah.
And 2 artifacts for 2 mana and 1 card is kind of sick. Unfortunately, Karn exists. Maybe he won't, but that's later.
Yeah.
Of course, we have Evanescence.
I think this is the best card spoiled so far.
I think so. So, Cruel Somnophage, 1 and a black for a star, where its power types are equal to the number of creature cards in all graveyards. And then it's an adventure card, so then for 1 and a blue, you get Can't Wake Up for target player mills 4 cards.
this I think might give a critical mass. So the problem with the dredge deck, right,
Uh-huh.
is that you want a bunch of creatures in your graveyard for a lot of
Yeah.
cool effects, right?
Mhm.
But the cards that mill you are all spells, and you don't really care about getting spells in your graveyard. And so this plus Merfolk Secret Keeper, plus I think there's another like Stitcher Supplier and stuff like that. I
Yeah.
think we're now hitting a critical mass of creatures that can mill us to actually make some sort of like graveyard
Hey,
dredge
Ricky,
Narco Diva.
we've already seen that Dredge is good. I mean, we talked about the Cat Oven deck last week. So
Played
Dredge is
against
already back and good.
I played against that Cat Oven deck
It's hot, right?
Friday. It was hot. Yeah, it was. It
I just think
was.
this card is very strong.
Yeah.
I think Salmon of Phage is great too. And everyone is, of course, be seeing Evanescence the whole all pre-release.
Mm-hmm.
All right, do you want to talk about the mythics or do you want to talk about the rare land cycle?
Well, the rare land won. We don't know how
One,
far.
yeah. I mean, why do we have more why do we have more manlands?
So I'm just upset. Not upset. I'm not upset about anything, but like I'm kind of like concerned that this is a manland that is enemy colored, and in Pioneer we don't have allied colored manlands yet,
Yeah.
which is fine because like not many of the manlands see much play in Pioneer.
Mm-hmm.
One I think is way better than Shambling Vent because it's free damage, right?
Sure.
But you have to compete with Hive, and
Mm-hmm.
well, this
But,
one also has to compete against Cave of the Frost Dragon, which is the only bad D&D one. But
what made Shambling Vet like playable though was the fact that it had lifelink. Like the
well, this
fact that
gains you
like
2 life when it swings.
yeah, but you have to attack with it. Like I've played Shambling Vet in like Orzhov decks, and it's like you can just lock down like a Shambling Vet can just like sit there and just like your aggro players aren't getting through because they like don't. It's a 2/3, right? Like
Right. I kind of like this card. I like the design of this card. I don't like that I can't activate it multiple times and drain a ton of life.
Sure.
But I do like this card.
They figured it out right after
Right.
you can't multi-activate. I mean, we've seen them. They don't want to do half cycles anymore. So if we don't get them all in this set, I'm going to assume we are going to get them the rest of them in Ixalan. Yeah. But at the same time, if this is the rare land cycle for the set, there's no reason we can't just get all of them.
Right.
But yeah, either we either get all of them here or the others are going to be in Ixalan. I think is pretty easy to guess at. And who knows? They might not even give us all the enemy ones. They could just mix and match it again, like they've done a few times as well.
For sure.
All right, mythics wise, we got a planeswalker because hey, those
Let's start at the worst one and work our way up.
So
the fairy.
White Crater, the fairy.
The fairy's the worst one.
All right, so Talion, the Kindly Lord, 2 blue black for a 3/4 legendary creature fairy noble with flying. As Talion, the Kindly Lord, is the battlefield, choose a number between 1 and 10. Whenever an opponent casts a spell with mana value, power, or toughness equal to the chosen number, that player loses 2 life. You draw a card. I think actually in Pioneer, you can name like 2, 3, or 4, and you're going to hit a lot of the time.
Yep. There's a lot of creatures in Pioneer.
I don't hate this card.
Yeah.
It has no protection for itself other than having a 4, but right.
Sure.
It gets fatal pushed because it does still have 4 toughness, right?
Yeah. I mean, you still have fatal push in the format.
You're right. You're right. There might not be any spells left. They ban everything but Talion. Right.
Yeah. Fiddleton is the last one standing.
So I don't think this card is bad by any means. It's just sort of like I feel like this draws you a card. It isn't bad, right? I feel like you have to name their removal spell number, right?
Sure.
Like you just have to name 2 or something.
Mm-hmm.
But if you've seen their hand, let's just remember this card's black, right? We're definitely casting this card a lot.
Thoughtseize, right?
So we've done something to see their hand.
Okay, Ruckman.
We've
also gotten
a 3/4 Thoughtseize.
Right. We've also gotten a 3/4 flyer as part of the deal.
It has no ward, right?
Right.
My opponent doesn't just lose life for existing, right?
Ricky, you think Ward is Bushido or just slap it on every mythic and call it a day?
I don't see Death Touch, right? Like plus like only 4 toughness. It's a 4 mana mythic, right? This should have at least 5 toughness, right?
or the same number of toughness and about 30 more words.
Right.
Right.
It doesn't
It's a blue
gain
card
me
though, so
life.
it has to be bad.
It doesn't gain me life, right?
Right.
It's not a green card, Ricky.
You mean a black card?
I mean, it's half blue, so it can't be that good.
Yeah. It's just, come on. Shieldred. Everything has
Yeah.
to be compared to Shieldred at 4-dropping, right?
Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk about another black card though with Ashiok, Wicked Manipulator. 3 black for 5 starting loyalty. Legendary Planeswalker Ashiok. If you would pay life while your library has at least that many cards in it, exile that many cards from the top of your library instead. +1, look at the top 2 cards of your library, exile one of them and put the other into your hand. Okay. -2, create 2 1/1 black nightmare creature tokens with at the beginning of combat on your turn. If a card was put into exile this turn, put a 1 counter on this creature. That's pretty good. They get bigger. And
This,
then -7, target player exiles the top X cards of their library, where X is the total number of cards you own in exile.
no. Wrong. The total mana value of all
Oh, the
cards
total
you
mana
own in
value.
exile.
Oh, okay.
This card is going to be a Magic Christmas Land hilarious combo piece.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, this plus Bolas's Citadel,
Bolas
like,
Citadel.
you should win the game.
sure.
Yep.
Like, you will also eventually find ways to proliferate this Ashiok or cast more Ashioks, right? And then
Sure.
you can just -7 them after you've Bolas Citadel your whole deck away.
Now imagine this card when they unban Inverter on Monday.
Oh, man.
Huge.
All right, can we talk about the best card?
We could talk about the best card, but it has the worst like top 8 art I've seen, where they just said
Doesn't
like
matter. This card is very good.
White Crater. Tell us about White Crater, Ricky.
White, 5. Actually costs 4 mana. Don't worry about it. Costs 4, I'll tell you how later. 6/6 flying. When it enters the battlefield, creatures you control gain flying and get +X till end of turn, where X is the number of creatures you control. It does not have haste like Craterhoof does, so it can't swing with the team, right? But this is Pioneer. We're not going to cast this. We're gonna creativity or transmog into it, right? There's so many cards that make us tokens, you know.
Sure.
Like, it's very easy to just have 5 tokens in play and win the game, right? Or have 4 tokens in play. This comes down and wins the game, right?
Okay, all right.
I just think this card is insane, and I think it's going to be like you thought Boros Convoke was kind of whack, right? Like, I mean, I think it can get whacker, right?
Sure.
Boros would be a good color combination for this if you want to creativity into it, you know?
I think this just adds to the number of like strange and like kind of powerful decks that you can play if you own Sacred Foundries.
Sure.
So I still think like the advice of buy Sacred Foundries is good. Like, I
This is
think
not financial advice.
years ago we were like buy Blood Crypts, right?
Yeah.
And when we first started, we were just saying buy Steam Vent, right?
Yeah.
But now I think the actual best Shockland to own for playing different Pioneer decks is Sacred Foundry.
Yep.
Sure.
By 8 copies.
Yeah.
I don't know. This is not
Now,
investment.
now that Chris has said buy them, they're going to get banned on Monday. So
That's exactly right. Historically speaking, that's how my
I used to make
cards
those
go.
jokes like way back when Modern was a format.
Way
it
back
still is.
You know, back
They
before
just
the
had a Pro
Angels won the
Tour.
pennant. You know, I used to joke that they were just going to ban Steam Vent because of how much they were like hating on Twin. But anyways,
I mean,
Good
look. I
times.
mean, I don't know if that was a new Pro Tour or not. I because Kai top aided, so it could have been an old Pro Tour for all I know.
What year is it?
Yeah.
Does anybody know what year it is? Right.
All I know is I won the over under on the number of rings.
You did, but there was no prize, so
That's fine. I'm betting Chris 3 times my annual and one of the Spark boxes on this ban list.
That's right. That's right. The classic.
Also, these basic lands are really nice.
Basically, there's whoever's on the basic land team just always knocks it out of the park every time.
I
What do you
feel so
think of
stupid for buying all the Phyrexian basic foils. Like,
What
now
do
I
you
have
think of
problems.
the enchantment cycle?
I hate the art on them.
Really, I love the art.
Yeah, I'm a big hater on
What?
the art.
All of the art?
Yep.
Really?
Even the Ristic study.
The
Nickel one's
Smothering
cool.
Tide.
All this art is sick.
I hated all of it.
Wow.
I want more Hydra Goose lore.
Chris over here hating every orphan in the whole world.
Yeah. To Chris, the best alternate art card is still Faithless Looting.
Chris only wants
No, I
the
hate
anime.
that. This
Only
reminds
wants
me of
the
this
anime
reminds me
one.
of that. You know.
This art's great.
This art's incredible. Art is subjective, so everybody can have their own opinion, except for Chris, who is wrong.
Right.
That's right.
That's
right,
going to be the
so-
theme of this episode.
The anime Aggravated Assault just looks like a Grand Archive card, though.
It does, yeah.
It just looks like a Grand Archive card.
Yeah.
Did you guys make friends with old Johnny Walker before this episode started? Were you guys
Look,
you guys out there partying with old Smirnoff?
Chris can be wrong, just
I
like
went a
everyone
few
else's
rounds.
fanless predictions.
I went a few rounds with
Jose Cuervo?
Jose Cuervo?
a particular Jose, right?
Yeah.
This Aggravated Assault looks nothing like a Grand Archive card.
What are you looking at the anime one?
Oh, maybe I'm not. I don't know. Where would it be? I'm looking at the alternate art Enchanted Tales cards.
The one where Smothering Tithe is like two girls laughing at you?
Yeah. The Ohohojo
No.
Sama Smothering Tithe.
No, I'm not
is
looking at that, I guess. I'm looking at one where Smothering Tithe is the
Here. This is
is
the art
the
he's talking about. Chris.
Needlemaker.
This is the art he's talking about. And that's Rumpelstiltskin, not Rapunzel.
Rumpelstiltskin. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Maybe Chris has been
Okay. All
with
right.
Johnny
And
Walker.
this is the also a Grand Archive card, the Smothering Tithe. The Ohohojo Sama.
All right. This definitively does. Yes.
Yeah. All right.
All right,
We
back
good?
to our regularly scheduled programming where Chris isn't, destroying everything that we love and cherish.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
I'm gonna
Ricky's
do it.
job.
I'm gonna do it again. I'm a DJ Khaled.
Oh
Your
man,
hopes and dreams. I wanted to start by talking about the state of Pioneer and get
All
you
right,
guys, because we've
yeah.
had several people, right?
we didn't even get a little.
Chiming
We
on
didn't
the
even get a little
Discord.
cute transition in there.
Chris is here. He's ready for it.
Like we didn't
We've
even
had several people in the
Okay.
Discord talk about how Pioneer feels a little bit stale
Yeah.
to them in particular. Maybe some of their events in their locales aren't firing. So how do you guys, knowing that, we're contractually obligated to like Pioneer, I suppose, although we don't really, that's not true. We can walk away from this anytime. How do you guys feel about Pioneer currently?
So I think overall, the power level of Pioneer, I feel like is fine, but I do agree with the complaints that's getting stale. Although obviously, like in the last few weeks, like we've had some big shakeups in the meta, but it feels like it's too little, too late, and it feels like almost like a big course correction that should have happened like already.
Mhm.
And I feel like if left alone, who knows, things will be fine. But I feel like people are not a big fan of what are seemingly the top two decks right now, and that is Sack and Mono Green. And while your locals might not show it, a lot of online events, like there's a prelim this over the last week where all the decks that like placed right it was just Mono Green and Rakdos Sacrifice. And while I'm a big fan of at least Sacrifice, right, I do know that it's not a deck that everyone likes. It's a deck that I like. But I can see why decks like that being top of the format, especially when you have a lot of decks sharing the same cards. They might not necessarily be the same decks, right? But you see a lot of the same cards showing up, especially cards like Fable and things like that. The format does feel stale because a lot of decks are built around a powerful card like Fable right now.
Sure.
And so I get it.
Sure.
I get the complaints that it feels stale.
Ricky, where you at?
I think that Pioneer doesn't really feel stale to me. I feel like there's a lot of interesting decks that you can play and have like success with, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that there's a couple of like cards in like specific cards that create play patterns that aren't fun, and there's a few cards that have become ubiquitous with their color. So I think that there's some bans that we can like have that are going to open up the format more rather than like close it in, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And since like the format is already kind of like ready to like not really like there's so many decks already that are so really close that like a few good bans here could see a like explosion. of new
Yeah.
decks, right?
of like new decks
I
coming out.
feel like Pioneer, every time there's a big meta shakeup ban, the format has definitely improved, and then it's settled into a bit of a rut of like the same top decks. But I think that's just because, again, Pioneer, we always talk about how underexplored it is and how new decks keep showing up all the time. But everyone just kind of feels safe in this picking the same three decks, which is fine. Like that's how metagames get established, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that every time we see the big like 4 or 5 card bannings, Pioneer feels so much more rejuvenated. And that's for any format though, right?
Yeah.
And
Well,
so I do think
we
there was an interesting conversation that I think it was I think maybe it was Kevman brought up in the Discord where it was like, are you worried about having scheduled ban lists again? And I think the only downside of scheduled ban lists is like when people just start like really arguing and like going over like there's a lot of like name calling going back and forth about just like no you're wrong you're wrong right and I'm gonna say people are wrong just to be funny and make content right but like everyone is entitled to their own opinions on what makes the game good or bad right but I do think that I would rather have this yearly ban list happen and let wizards come in and pseudo have a little more artificial control over the metagame versus them like announcing next year instead that here comes Pioneer Horizons and that's how they're going to control things.
Right, right.
right.
I would rather them just go, okay, it's been a year. We've seen these decks really dominate. Let's remove like one piece that makes these decks utterly dominant and then just see what happens, right? I think
No, but that's
almost like a Yu-Gi-Oh style of ban list, but not like
yeah, that's a
as
huge change in philosophy from what Magic
yeah,
has done in the past, and I think that's kind of worth this discussion as far as how in the past we were so proud that a card hasn't been banned in standard for 10 years, right?
yeah,
And now I think this is fine. They want to push powerful designs. It's just a different way of looking at it with the fire design cards. They've been much more comfortable going, hey, there's going to be 5 cards banned in standard now, right? We're going to ban all of
yeah.
these cards. So you guys are, and this is a change from what Ricky said in the past as well. But I think it would be a cool idea as far as you'd be fine with them using the ban list as a way to shake up the format. At least, again, not maybe every couple months, but once a year, if they kind
Yeah,
of shake things up a little bit, or
yeah, I 100% agree. I think that like as we're going to talk about probably here before we go into what we think is going to be banned, that there are people who are guessing no bans are going to happen, and I think that when you introduce this idea of we are going to control the format with we're going to control every format with a ban list every year, and then a couple weeks after every set release, every major set releases, we can come in and say, oh, hold on, things aren't going how we thought they would post release. We need to have an emergency decision. But I think those are going to be very few and far between when something happens there, unless it's like really close to the yearly release and they're just like, let's give it a little more time on this, right?
yeah,
Um, I think we are going to see more action happen in things like Pioneer, in Standard, on the yearly ban lists, especially now that Standard is a 3-year rotation cycle. And I don't think they're ever anywhere near close to doing Horizon sets in Pioneer. At least I hope not. So I
we
do
hope.
think that having some control over the formats in this sense of being able to go, again, X, Y, Z decks are very dominant. What are cards that we can take out of them to maybe not kill the deck entirely, but can we drop them down a peg? And that's how I would like to see. I would like to see when we talk about what cards we want to see get banned. I will be going over cards I think that are more than likely to leave the deck as existent, but
Mm-hmm.
maybe not like, but still bring it down like in power level a peg or two.
Okay, Ricky, what was your take on the you're okay with some format shakeup type bans?
Well, the thing is, like, we live in the world where they've announced that they're going to just once a year ban list and like maybe like emergency ban list a week after every set, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like in that world, I'd rather they change it rather than not, right?
Yeah,
Like if we're going to be stuck with the format for a year, essentially, right? I'd rather see things shift a little than leave it alone, right?
sure.
And it can create. I mean, like the problem is like Magic is going to go the way of like the Yu-Gi-Oh ban list, right? Which is frustrating, personally.
Yeah,
cards like Pioneer was not a like intended format from like day of like start of design, right?
Sure.
Like my thoughts are like when RTR came out, and then like later down the line when they were designing, uh, you know,
Amonkhet.
Eldraine,
Sure,
right?
Eldraine. Sure, yeah.
Amonkhet.
Right.
They weren't thinking, oh, how does this card play with
Mhm.
RTR for Pioneer format because they hadn't invented that yet, right? I do think they should test for modern and they should test for standard. They should definitely test for standard, right? They should know, well, we can't print Witch's Oven in the same exact set as the cat because clearly this is going to disrupt standard, right?
Yeah.
You know, but here we are, the year of our Lord 2023, and Wizards doesn't care, right?
Right.
Uh, I feel like they should test for at least standard, but clearly formats like Pioneer, formats like Modern, they can't test every interaction. So you do have to kind of step in with the ban list. I think it's embarrassing when you have to ban cards in Standard. I think it's normal when you have to ban cards in Pioneer, and that's kind of exciting. It's kind of what drew a lot of people to the format, right?
We talked
Right.
about the Sam Black. If
Get
you're
Like
to
not
if you're,
future
trying,
if
cards,
you're not
man.
getting something banned, yeah, exactly.
How would you guys grade Wizards so far on the ban list they've made? Like, I don't
While
know if you
being
want to do letter grade or
slow,
number grade, but
while being slow to
Mhm.
catch some things, especially during the COVID years, right? I
Yeah,
think the ban list has been almost flawless.
I
I agree.
agree with you actually.
I see
I
only
think,
like two blemishes on the ban list
yeah,
where they got the wrong guy, right?
yeah,
Sure.
Where they
and that's
put
the
Inverter of Truth in
Seagate,
jail
right, instead of the Thassa's
instead of
Oracle.
Thassa's Oracle,
Yeah.
and where they put Winota in jail for crimes of whiner babies.
I will say that as much as we give criticism, which has landed us on several blacklists, I think this is one area
Oh, yeah.
where they have done a pretty darn good job is on the ban list for Pioneer. I am pretty happy. I mean, every time I see Teferi on there, I go, you get it. Whoever is
Yeah,
controlling this
yeah.
ban list, make sure
I
that
don't think you
person
can
stays
complain
higher.
about the ban list when like we wrote like a thesis on like half the cards on the ban
Right,
list and why they should be banned.
right,
Yeah.
right. If you play a lot of Pioneer, please listen to us. And whether they did or not, those cards are banned. And so,
Yeah.
again,
And,
whoever's making those decisions, great job.
we will talk. I mean, this is a bit of a preview into I think how we're going to end things, which is going to be like a revisit of what is banned
Sure.
Mhm.
and talk about like can anything come off, or do you want to do that now instead of, and then we'll do what should go on since we're kind of already here.
So I made a kind of like 4 ban list predictions, right?
Okay.
So we can get to that at some point, but I made a good, the bad, the ugly, and the based.
Okay. I do think though before we move on, I do. I mean, Chris, did you want to weigh in on whether or not you feel like things are stale or where they're at?
Man, I super appreciate you bringing it back to that because I did have a lot of thoughts there, but I was like, you guys were on a roll and I was absolutely loving it. See, because I thought it was super interesting, some of the stale talk, mostly because I was playing Boros Pia. Like, I was having the time of my life. And I really don't feel like Pioneer has always been the best format. We dealt with Uro for a really long time, right? We dealt with Inverter for a really long time where, like, Wizards wasn't willing to budge for a while.
Yeah, it should have been after the Pro Tour.
Yeah, before they finally came around, and it was really one of those things where it was like super odd. And so I really am not a person who's going to sit here and be like, Pioneer has just always been the best format. Modern Horizons cards are the worst. Although I don't personally like them, if you've been playing since before Planeswalkers are a thing, the Modern Horizons cards are pretty wild. Like, you would be, again, it's more comparable to Legacy than it was to Old Modern, especially when you go back and watch some of the actual matches. From some of the first couple Modern Pro Tours after they banned some of the generate like infect things and some of the crazy combo pieces there, right? So
stuff like that.
I have played with also a ton of people. Like, for whatever reason, our locals are thriving here in Texas. So like I've been playing 15 to 20 person locals still. Rocking new decks. I played a Demir deck recently and played against a bunch of different kinds of decks. Angels Burn and then the sweet Cat Dredge deck. So I felt really bad for people having those feelings, although they're valid. I totally can see what people are coming about, are talking about when they talk about the staleness of Pioneer. But I have been absolutely in love playing several different decks. The format's still very cheap, especially now that I have pretty much all the lands that I need, with the exception of maybe some of the slow lands. But I have really, really liked Pioneer. I haven't thought it was super stale. I thought they're, just like Boros Pia came out, if we had new sets, like we're about to get the first new set for Pioneer in a couple months, and I think that was going to change things. I mean, the small set March of the Machine gave us the Pia deck, right? The set before that gave us new cards. So not a ton of them are probably in SAC, I guess.
Mhm.
Right? Most like Shield was probably the most relevant
I mean,
cards before that. We would probably
Aftermath's
need a little bit of
released.
a shakeup.
Aftermath released in May, right?
Sounds
So
about
it's
right.
literally going to be 4 months since our last set when we get
Yeah.
Eldraine.
And it was a small set, and March the Machine gave us Boros Convoke. Anything else? Was that where Atraxa was? Where was Atraxa?
I mean,
Atraxa was
that was the set before, but
Set
like
before.
March of the
all we
Machine
want.
just sort of gave us like Invasion of Gobakhan, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
It gave us the
Some of the
Ren's Resolve.
Ren's Resolve, right? Yep.
You know,
Good
it
call.
gave us
We're
the
coming.
Convoke guy.
Yep.
People messed around with Chromo Seed Shark, right? It
Mhm.
gave
Yep.
us Chandra, which has been doing a lot of things.
Sure.
Yeah. But I think some of those cards would see more play potentially, and that's where I think some of the stale comment comes from. Is that it
Yeah.
feels like there's a lot of cards that are just a little bit held down by some of the most powerful cards that, again, you could argue are a mistake, and so that's where I could see some of the stale talk. But there have been, again, several new decks popping up and doing very, very well in the last month, which is where I do not feel like it's stale at all, and have really been surprised at some people who have then gone to play Modern, especially like some streamers I've seen recently, where then they go play Modern and they have an absolutely miserable time and pretend like, oh, well, this is what I'm doing now. And so it's kind of surprising. So anyway, thanks for bringing that up. Because, yeah, I've really felt the opposite of it being stale, but would not mind a shakeup just because, again, I still think there are more cards that could see play.
I still think the stale thing comes from just we talk about how there's a new top deck with Raptor Sacrifice, but the problem is when its play style is still turn 1 Thoughtseize, turn 2 Bloodtithe Harvester, turn 3 Fable with the Mirror Breaker.
Right.
It's Raptor Spin Range again with a couple extra
Right.
different cards, right?
But better against creature decks, right?
Yeah.
So totally fair there. All right, where do you guys want to go on band stuff?
So, I mean, should we get? I'm just gonna post this. I'll let you guys do with this information what you think.
I think let's just talk about real quick. Let's run through kind of some of the. Let's just talk about some of the old cards real quick because I do think we're kind of on this topic and we'll spend more time about what cards we want to see get banned, right? Because I do think really quickly looking at the ban list right now, right? I mean, you get Balustrade Spy, Expressive. So you Balustrade Spy. The fetch lands aren't coming back, right? So
right.
Balustrade Spy, Expressive Federation, Felidar Guardian, Field of the Dead, Inverter of Truth, Kethis, Leyline of Abundance, Luris, Nexus of Fate, Oko, Once Upon a Time, Smuggler's Copter, Teferi, Understanding Informer, Underworld Breach, Uro, Veil of Summer, Walking Ballista, Wilderness Wreck, Winota. I mean, easily to say that cards like Nexus of Fate, Once Upon a Time, the truly broken cards were never coming back.
Right.
And I know some people who are like, well, Nexus is only bad because of Wilderness Wreck. I've played Nexus without Wilderness Wreck before. It's still abysmal.
So Nexus of Fate, Oko, I don't know,
Veil
Oko,
once.
3 Fairy, Veil, Once Upon. They're just miserable cards.
Yeah. A lot of people talk about Smuggler's Copter. And
So,
if you think Fable is everywhere a problem, welcome to Smuggler's Copter.
Right.
I don't remember even there are people who talk about banning Smuggler's Copter, unbanning Smuggler's Copter. Number one, were you playing when the first started and Mono Black Aggro was the most disgusting deck, being able to pitch their 1-drops to Copter, attack with it, get them back for free, just up insane amounts of value? Or did you play when it was in Standard and oh boy, that was a mistake as well. I haven't played a format where Smuggler's Copter was just this is a fine card to exist.
Yeah, I think if you look at the One Ring and you go, oh, yeah, this is a strong card. One of the biggest problems with the One Ring is that it's a colorless artifact, and that every deck now plays it. And again, Ricky said, ubiquity earlier. That's a huge part of why Smuggler's Copter is a problem. It's we tried it at the beginning of Pioneer. That was not banned on the starting list on cards of Pioneer. It was just in every single aggro deck because it had to be played because it's a colorless artifact, and that's why. It's very, very strong also, but it is so strong and every deck has to play it. You basically just remove 4 cards from every deck, every aggro deck, because you want to play this card. And so the
And
format is
mid-range
definitely
deck.
better off without it. I don't think that's a question in my mind.
Any deck that plans to have a creature. The thing is,
Yeah.
if this card costs black, right?
Mhm.
Right.
This card could cost black colorless, right?
Yeah.
And it would be fine, actually. I think the effect is very strong, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
The problem with this card is that it goes in every deck. You don't have to like stretch for it at all. If your deck plans to play any number of creatures at any point in time, this card is just strictly better to play than other cards that you could be playing at 2 mana. So, with no color restriction, this card is just ubiquitous, right?
Yeah.
So, if this card costs black, colorless, I would say sure. You know,
Then you can play with my Death Ray Shaman. It's
it would have
Crew 1.
never it would have never gotten banned, right?
Yeah.
But it doesn't cost black colorless; it costs 2 colorless, and so you play it in
Yeah.
every red deck, white deck, black deck. You play it in every deck that plays a creature. You don't play it in like blue white control, and that's it, right? You
Yeah.
can't play it in creativity because they can't play artifacts.
Yeah, artifacts,
Yeah.
right?
That's about it.
Like
Yeah.
people talk about Luris, and it's just like we're past the point of Luris mattering. Like creature
Yeah.
decks are powerful enough now that they don't need the handicap of Luris. And I think like looking back at Luris format, it was actually just kind of holding, I think, deck design back in a lot of
agree.
cases.
Yep.
So like Luris, whatever. Like, should it come off? Could it come off? I guess. Do I want it to? No, because I don't want it to handicap people anymore.
Yep.
What else? What else do you think,
I
Ricky?
don't think Luris can come off because I think I personally I used to be in that camp of like I'm a strong man. I don't need no cat. I can play 3
Sure.
drops, right? And like just getting rolled by Luris decks because they were playing way more efficiently and way better. I think that it's not a handicap. I think it's legitimate power, legitimate like absurd like advantage.
No,
And,
it's very strong. I think his
so-
more point was just like we're now to a point where people thought that like aggro was going to be dead without Luris, and like now now we've learned that we didn't need that man. We were strong and independent, and we didn't need Luris this whole time. We can still survive in the format. Not that it's not good. It's just people had kind of given up on aggro for a
I don't
bit.
think it, but I don't. I'm like Ruckman's kind of talking like it could come off, and it
Oh, I
wouldn't
don't think it
change
should.
much. But it like definitely shouldn't because it would change a lot because it is just better than playing Mayhem Devil.
Oh.
Fair enough. All right, Walking
It is
Ballista.
just is yeah.
Walking Ballista. Speaking
Can't
of a
ever
card, it's
come off.
colorless. We just talked about Ubiquity. We just went off on that one. And the problem I see is that this card can't exist with Nykthos. Is like
I don't think
really
it
the
just
place
exists
that I
with
see.
Heliod.
What's that?
I think it's fine with Nykthos. I just don't think it can exist with Heliod.
I think it can exist with Heliod.
Can't
I think
exist
they're more powerful combo decks.
any combo that can't exist with this card is just
Having
very
played mono green like before we were on Karn right with Nykthos, like it was fine. Like it wasn't like backbreaking, but like
You can cast
I
a
am
single
sorry.
card in this format
hardened
5 mana
scales enjoyers.
and win the game.
yeah.
One card, 5 mana. Say those words. No, just kidding.
Right. If your opponent just like has nothing, right? You do beat them for 5 mana, right?
Sure.
If your opponent just like on turn 4 against creativity just goes like, I'm fine, let's just shove a Shieldred, right? Then yeah.
I mean, let's say they kill your worm.
Win, right?
Let's say they kill your worm. You get 3 5/5s. You do it again next turn.
You don't kill the worm. If you have a kill spell, you just kill the cards. You just kill you kill the creativity targets.
Oh, you kill the artifacts.
Yeah.
Yeah. You kill the artifacts, you kill the Fable token, right? Like
Sure,
that's how
if they're targeting creatures. Yeah.
Very fair. If they've already got like 3 treasures sitting around, then you're gonna lose.
Usually they do. Usually they usually get to target treasures and or clues, things like that. So that's my point. Is like if that's around and is fine, I want my Walking Ballista. But
Just
to be
think
fair, I did get rid of most of my Walking Ballistas now. So don't unban it. I don't have to go rebuy
Walking
Walking.
Ballista can't come back.
And what else we got? Like Kethis. Kethis is just like
probably actually too good now. I don't think it was too good when it got banned, but I think it is too good now.
just like some 4/5 color legendary nonsense like Rona and stuff.
Well, like just Rona plus also like just I think the Mox Amber decks in general have just gotten better.
Yeah.
So I
But
just think
I
this card,
also just think like there's a reason why eggs is banned in modern.
right?
This is the same reason. Like it should also stay banned in Pioneer.
Sure.
Um,
I remember
Expressive
when we
iteration.
had the deck built on like Arena, and like every
Yeah,
time we would stream it, it was just like, is this cyberbullying? Right?
yeah, yeah,
It was
yeah.
just like you lose, but you have to sit around for 20 minutes while I play with the MTGA
Um,
timer.
what do you think of cat comp with like Felidar Guardian?
No, nope,
But there's
can't
no
come back.
Teferi anymore, Ricky.
Can't come back.
It's a it's a 7 mana combo.
Nope, nope, nope. Too good for Modern. Too good for Pioneer.
You still have Teferi though.
If you're not allowed to play Splinter Twin in Modern, you cannot play Splinter Twin in Pioneer.
Yeah.
Field of the Dead.
This card should not have been printed ever.
Yeah. Leyline of Abundance.
It is absolutely stupid high roll. Like it just, man, if you don't have an answer to the elf and your opponent plays Leyline of Abundance, right? You
You're
just
really
straight
done.
lose. You just
Yeah.
end the game, right?
I mean, like, I think we're all in agreement that Inverter died from the Sins of Thassa's Oracle.
Right.
Balustrade Spy and Undercity Informer.
They should stay around. That deck is fun.
I think they died for the sins of best of 1Q on Arena.
Quite possibly, yes.
There's a reason why like Tybalt's Trickery is banned in Explorer still.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, there's like nothing can come off here.
No. Maybe Wilderness Wreck.
No.
Maybe.
I think top
Maybe.
of my unbanned list is Walking Ballista.
Yeah.
I think my second might be Field of the Dead, but I'm going to tell you right now that when Field of the Dead got banned, I didn't think it should have gotten banned. I was in the thing that
What?
yeah, I was like, I crush this deck all the time. I didn't see the problem. Yeah,
Chris is the guy who's like, I never lose this deck in my locals. It has to be bad.
No. Seriously, I mean, like, it was one of those cards where everybody else was freaking out, and I was really like, I mean, I don't see the problem. Like, you probably couldn't now. I think there's too many search effects for lands, and the problem with cards like this is
play
that,
lands against me. That
right.
doesn't win the game. Turn.
All right. So the problem again that with decks like this is that you don't have to play any win conditions because your land is the win condition. Right? That's the problem with a card like this. It just wasn't incredibly because they were all had to be differently named lands. It didn't feel as oppressive, but now that we have all these triomes and all this nonsense, it's probably too good. But at the time, we had I think just one set of triomes, maybe, if that.
Let's just unban one fetch land and leave the rest of the other four.
Oh man!
The triomes mean that one fetch land gets every single color.
your top unban actually is either Undercity Informer or Balustrade Spy,
but not both.
Don't both. Right?
Don't make me choose.
Yeah. And then
which sun do you want? Probably Balustrade Spy, right?
Probably
Balustrade
Spy.
Yeah.
I don't like the Undercity, so.
All right, well, let's get down to the main event and defeat the Huns. Let's talk about what is or isn't going to get banned. I mean, let's just Ricky's posted his 4 quadrants here, and I think we can just kind of talk about these and then just kind of add and remove as we so choose.
All right.
Sure.
Step 1, what do you think would be a good ban list on August 7th for Pioneer? What ban list would you see and you go, yeah, that's fine. That's good. You're not excited, right? But you're like, good job, right?
Let's see here. So it's probably Fable.
I put down Fable Karn. Just Fable Karn, nothing else. I would say good job.
I 100% agree with you. I think Fable Karn is a good ban list.
Now hold on here.
Uh-huh.
I've been thinking. Been thinking real deep about alternative bans to Karn from Mono Green.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to name one of them because I think that's later discussion for Ricky's quadrants here.
Right.
But like, just if they, for whatever reason, want to keep Karn around, I don't think it's a good reason. Whatever they have, maybe Karn owns the money, so he's got to stay around a little longer.
Right.
He's got to work for it. I think we could do away with Storm the Festival or Cavalier of Thorns. I think, like, don't get me wrong, right?
Yeah,
Yes, Karn tutoring up anything is like way too
Karn
good.
is the combo. You
But
don't need Storm the Festival a combo. You just need
I
Karn.
think
Storm the
I think
Festival, you
really
just want to
what
hit Karn.
okay. Can I finish my
Continue.
point,
You have the
please?
floor. You have the floor.
No.
Thank you. I think what really pushed the deck over the top, because there are games where you're just floundering, right? Like, but what really pushes the deck over the top is when you turn around because your friend wants some gum or they want the keys to the car, right? And
Mhm.
then you turn back around, your opponent went from having just like 2 elves and 5 lands in play to now they have like amassed 10 more permanents because they've gone Cavalier into Nykthos, into Activate, into Storm, into hit another Cav, hit the other Nykthos, and just like keep going off, right? So then we also flash back our Storm the Festival. And I think those cascading effects, and I mean, maybe you can talk about Q. I've seen people also throw out like Kiora for the same thing. I think turns that allow you to set up ways that allow you to set up multiple Nykthos plays in one turn are what really push the deck into dangerous situations. Because if they were just like, hey, I get my one Nykthos a turn, and then I get to do a big expensive Karn thing, whatever. You can come back from that, right? But when they also have this Cavalier, they have like 3 Cavaliers in play that are just massive bodies that you don't want them to die because they're just going to go get whatever card back out from their graveyard. I think like those big plays with multi-Nykthos turns are what really makes the deck dangerous.
I think that's a fine point. I think that you can't stop multiple Nykthos activations because I can always play in Nykthos, activate it, and then if it's a turn after I've played the first Nykthos, right? I just activate
Sure.
that Nykthos, play a second Nykthos, activate it. So like,
That's also
I like
requiring
the
you to
thought.
draw two
I,
cards out of.
I like the thought. I like the thought. I think that if you want to ban Karn and something, that's fine. But I think Karn is a ban that leaves mono green intact because they still do get those things
Right.
while unlocking my artifacts and stopping some of like the I'm gonna just go fetch an 8/8, with my Karn that got me value and you had to kill it. If you don't kill it, I'm gonna get more
You don't
stuff.
even go get the 8-8.
Like
You just get Chain Veil and win the game. Like,
you
that's the
can.
part
It's
that's
because you
bad.
don't have the vote for that sometimes though. Like you can't just go get Chain Veil and win the game.
You
I'd be
almost
fine with
always
like Karn Kiora or something like that if you still want to play the deck.
I think a good ban list is just Karn Fable, right?
I agree. I think that's a
We
good ban
agree
list.
Fable has had its fun.
Yeah.
It's been
Those
a
two bears
fun
were out there.
ride.
Our patrons got good uses, got good
That's
times out
right.
of their fables.
Yeah.
Those bears were out. Those bears were looting. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And they done looted all they can loot, and they can't loot no more.
But that
Right.
trench coat doesn't work anymore. We're on to their ways.
We know what's up. We know what's up. We
So
just
I think that, that would be a good ban. Fable Karn. What would you Chris, you said you agreed Fable Karn would be your
I agree.
good
Fable
ban?
Corn. I agree. I think if I saw that, if you're telling me you would see the list and not go, wow, they nailed it, but that's a good ban list.
Right.
I think Fable Karn is good. I think I'd be happy with that.
Right.
But there are other ban lists that I could see that I would go, dang, somebody at Wizards of the Coast
Exactly.
plays Pioneer. You know what I'm
Exactly.
saying? Like,
Bruckner,
Yeah.
would you
something like that.
a ban list that you would wake up and you'd see and you'd be like, that's a good ban list. I'm not floored, but I'm pretty happy, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I'm
I
like
think
80% satisfaction, right? Would you
Yeah.
agree?
8
What
out
would
of
you
10.
say?
Yeah, no, I agree. Again, like I'm just putting out alternatives and hypotheticals. I think that like yes, Karn is my ban, but I do think there are interesting cards to talk about and discuss from like most of the deck lists, right?
I'm
That
with
are
you.
just like
I'm with you. I don't think Karn stops mono green, and so if your thing was like I'd like to stop mono green while still leaving it a tier 2 deck, I think you would have to ban something on top of Karn. I do.
My
So
next
there still
thought,
isn't to say that like Vivian is
right?
still just very good. Like Vivian still tutors out a lot. I mean, like you can't chain veil infinite, but I think Vivian like is still possibly pretty good, especially when you have things like
yeah,
Cityscape Leveler being
Ruckman
tutorable and
easy
stuff like
leveler.
that.
Mm-hmm.
has unresolved trauma from mono green. This is just known fact.
Right. His
Ruckman
last
doesn't
top 8
want to
loss was to
see
mono green.
the elves ever rise again.
No, they could be in the Elves deck. I'm in for the Elves deck.
Right. My next kind of quadrant, as Ruckman has called them, be the bad. This is a gutting of the format. This
Yeah.
is you wake up
Oh
and you
yeah.
go, "Oh, what have they done to my boy?" Right? I'm not
Mhm.
saying a good format can't come from this kind of ban, but it would change like literal everything. And my example ban list is Fable, Karn, Lotus Field, Witches, Oven. Get it all out of
This
there.
sure sounds like Reddit's ban list.
This is what I
Plus
would say
Freeze
would be a
Fang.
bad ban list, right? I
Yeah.
think this ban list is like I'm at 50% customer satisfaction. I'm like,
Yeah.
you did what I wanted you to do, but you kept going. And will the format live on? Yes, but I'm not happy, right?
Yeah.
What would you guys say would be a ban list that you would think would be a it worked, but at what cost, right? Kind of like a this is not I'm not happy,
Yeah.
but the witch is dead, right?
Yeah. I don't think so. I think like Karn. I think like Karn Fable. No matter what happens, right? I do think I will be shocked if we don't wake up on Monday and Karn and Fable still exist, right?
Are still
Like
with us.
I'll be like, Santa isn't real. Like,
Meanwhile, the mono green players or the
eh,
ramparts we
yeah.
watch.
So like those, yeah, sure. If those are on the list, I'm already gonna be like, you know what? All right. They know, right? But I'm thinking like, what is Reddit complaining about? And I'm just like, oh man,
I don't know.
I'm with you with like Lotus Field and like, look, I've played so much Sack and Spirits that now that it's my time for those two decks to be top of the format, and now everyone is going to act like they're the most oppressive, ungodly, like godless country decks to ever exist. There's the door. Please
I've
leave.
been goodbye. I've been mad about Sack for a long time.
Um, look, I
Since
like Sack
season one,
since
since
season.
January of 2022, the first RCQ we went to in Waco, and I lose the finals to Rakdos Sack because I can't just not play creatures.
Yeah, since the printing of Cat Oven and Eldraine, I have been a Cat Oven enjoyer. Um, but no, like yeah, I think like Oven banning Oven is ridiculous. But like, man, I really I there is part of me that is worried that like the last 3 weeks of Sack performing has just like put it in the spotlight enough that they're gonna be like, ooh, we got time to go, kitty. Like it's either that or Mayhem Don't, right?
Still
I
want the
think
RTL.
Lotus, yeah, I think Lotus Field is also an overcorrection. Um,
Agreed.
like,
That's yeah.
like,
They wouldn't
I
have to
think
print
we could,
hidden strings on Arena anymore.
yeah. I think if we want to get rid of Lotus Field, right, like there are some cards I think we could take out just to like weaken it, right?
Right.
But maybe the like the blue white Lotus deck is enough now. That I'm just like, way to ruin it, blue light control players. Way to ruin it for everybody, right? But I still think like Lotus is like we Lotus is like an interesting combo deck that exists in Pioneer. I'm all for like decks that exist like in Pioneer, like only in Pioneer stick around in some cases. And I think Lotus is an interesting type of play pattern that we're only getting in Pioneer that it still stays to exist. I kind of agree with you there. I think there's also the bad that exists of like they're also just like, well, people don't like Thoughtseize.
That was my
Thoughtseize is also
that's
bad.
exactly what I was
That's what
thinking.
you want to put on the bad list,
Yeah,
right?
my exact
Yeah,
thought was
Man,
is
I
they
just don't
hit
think we'd
Thoughtseize.
ever, as a society, right? This is one of those like, man, I kind of hope we don't like overturn Supreme Court rulings that have protected people's rights for ages, right?
Right,
Like,
yeah.
I don't want to accept that we live in that kind of world, right? I don't think I could go on thinking that we live in a world that thinks that Thoughtseize is the problem.
I think another card is also just like Grease Fang. Like we're just getting
Right.
Fang
Yeah,
out of
get
here.
the Fang
Yeah.
out of there too.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think if we were adding on to the gut the format list, yeah, I think Grease Fang needs to get on here as well, and maybe even Bushwhacker or something also to get on here
Bone
just to
Crusher,
like,
like it's like Bone Crusher Giant, right? Like,
oh, don't hit my boy.
yeah,
But something from like Convoke, right? Something red and aggressive,
yeah.
you know.
Well, we don't have to worry about Convoke anymore because that guy that won is a cheater,
Oh, let's not talk about that.
allegedly. But you know,
Allegedly.
allegedly.
Um, but that's my bad. So they had Thoughtseize adding on. So we think Fable, Karn, Lotus Field, Witch's Oven, Thoughtseize, and
Grease
Greasefang.
Fang
That would be the
Yeah.
like Wizards is just like, oh, the
woke
the
up and chose
rabble
violence.
the
They
rabble
woke
is
up and
upset.
chose violence that day.
Yeah. So now let's move on to what I called the ugly. This is Wizards is out of touch and out of time, right?
Out of touch.
Exactly. They don't know what a pioneer is, right?
Yeah.
You ever heard it? They can't spell it.
Yeah, they explore,
Right.
historic.
Something.
This is
It's
a
it's this is this
out
is
of
this is like
pocket
this is
ban
a
list.
like this is like the Fox crew with always studies like what for is this?
Yeah.
Oh, this is the Pioneer Regional Championship.
Oh, y'all still play Pioneer? Yeah. Okay. Sure.
Sure, all right, well have a
Uh,
good day.
so this would be like, I think, in my opinion, completely out of pocket, completely nonsense bans that would be upset. I would be at a 10% happiness
I
rate.
think this is where the
Um,
unbannings go, right? Like
so
Yeah,
I put
yeah.
what I've put here is like, we don't ban Karn, we don't ban Fable. The ban list is, we wake up and it's like Oven and Nykthos are banned, and we've freed 3 Fairy. Right?
Sure.
The
Yeah.
format is now dead. Thank you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, this is just like, I think you missed the point, right? I guess it would kill mono green and sack, but it doesn't address the actual frustrating cards in those decks, right? It puts more problems into the format. What do you guys think, if you could think of like the most ugly, wild ban list announcement that Wizards could come up with?
So
What do you
I
think?
again I think this is where like some of the crazy unbans happen where they're just like well, in order to give like the aggressive decks a balance to Fable, here's Smuggler's Copter.
Well, see, yeah, the problem is, right, also, I want these to be realistic, right? It's easy to
Sure.
go like very funny and just be like, unban all the cards, ban all
Yeah.
these other things, right? Unban the fetch lands or something, right? I think that we could wake up and see Nykthos Oven and unban 3 Fairy. I really do think we could see that, and that
I don't think so. I
scares
think
me.
I will tell you that on the level of meme, because you're claiming this is not meme. I think this is a meme list. On the level of meme lists, though, right? When I had a list of bands that I said, hey, what do I think is most likely, right? And this is going to be controversial. This is a very controversial list. My number one most likely band list was Fable Karn, right?
Right.
Yeah.
My number two most likely band list was No Changes. That they go, hey, the format's been healthy. We expected red black mid range was the number one deck for so long. RC proved that out. That wasn't the case. The format's changing since then. We've seen Pia. Pioneer's in a good spot. We don't need to change anything. And that's a ban list that I actually, again, I think is the number two most likely. I think
Chris
that
might be right.
I would be 60% happy. Like, if I,
okay.
80% on the Fable Karn ban, 60% on
No
the
changes.
no changes.
No
The like
changes.
gut everything is like a 50% happy,
Yeah.
and then like
Here's
Nykthos
number three.
Oven. Yeah.
The do nothing is like the bro I'm gonna be sick.
I went. Oh, for you? I don't think so. My number three, and this was my meme list, was we're gonna ban everything not currently in Explorer, such that we don't have to do any more work on Arena. And Pioneer is now on Arena, so we banned Treasure Cruise. We're gonna ban Dig Through Time because we don't want to program them into Arena. And here you go. Now you have Pioneer on Arena. Go
See,
have
that's
fun,
like
kid.
I like the meme there, but I do think the reason we haven't seen Delve cards is they're just like, well, Karn or like we're gonna get Cons remastered. I think announced soon, so
Sure,
that's where Delve's coming back.
that's fair. I
Well,
can see it. I can see it.
either
But
way,
yeah, I think worst possible is Teferi. That's a 0% happiness. That's a nothing gets banned. Teferi is now unbanned. Uro is now unbanned. Is like the worst possible you could do. Honestly, like
I think like Uro and Oko. I think the thing is, I think that people. I'm afraid that Wizards doesn't understand why Teferi is on the ban list and might unban it. That's the thing,
Sure.
right? It's because, like, well, 3 Fairy does so good in Modern, and nobody complains about Modern because, they can't.
I think thankfully they wouldn't
I'm
admit
worried
to
that like I think the ugly is if it's like more than 4 or 5 cards and they're all just like the cards that the people on Reddit just like
More than 4 or 5 cards that aren't Karn and Fable.
yeah.
Right. I agree with that, right?
Like I think the ugly is if they just go to like every deck in the top 10 and go like this card from this one, this card from this one, this card from this one, this card from this one.
Arclight Phoenix is now banned. That's like the
That's fine. You
nightmare
got Demi Lich
scenario,
now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would make me cry.
Now my last category.
What would make you quit Pioneer? Is it that? If I wake up and see Arclight Phoenix banned, I think I quit Pioneer.
I think if they ban Spellqueller, I'm out.
I think if I see like Nykthos Oven to Fairy unbanned, a couple unbans, I just go, all right, we pack it in for 6 months to a year. Wait till they fix this.
Welcome
And see what happens.
Crew3, a standard podcast.
Another Commander podcast.
We're fully converting to Grand Archive at that point.
Right. Something like that.
It's a Glimpse 3, a Grand Archive podcast.
That's right.
So,
That's right.
Let's move on to some good ideas.
I'm here for the based.
This is my based ban list, right? This is 100% happy Ricky.
You messed up the bottom one. Go ahead.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
The ban list is Karn, Fable, Chariot,
Ooh.
Over the Pages, and Fire's Invention. Let me explain.
Okay. You have the floor.
Let him cook.
Karn.
Let him cook.
Get rid of it, right? Make mono green this weird deck that just wants to put a bunch of 5/6s in play and 4/4s and kill you that way, right? That's fine. I don't want to combo die. I don't want to get sideboard cards in game 1 against me. I don't want to have my stone brained, right? Fable, ubiquitous. Every red deck has to play Fable, and it makes so many decks happen on the back of Fable. Give it a rest. Let it sleep. It's done enough. Chariot, okay. Hear me out.
I like this for the Grease Fang hit.
I'm not targeting boats, right? What I'm targeting is I'm targeting Fang because we're taking out mono green and we're taking out Racksack and also some Rakdos mid-range. We need to balance Fang. I don't want Fang gone. I want Fang to not be able to play a fair game. Yeah. I want Fang to have to go all in. Let's get some skin in the game. Let's have to go all in on Parhelion or Sky Sovereign. No more Chariot, right? That's why I want to ban Chariot, not for Groll boats, right? Plus, it's such a frustrating card to deal with. Also, just whenever you see it, they play it in mono green too with Karn. Anyways, then I want to hit Pour Over the Pages. I did put Sylvan Scrying here, but the more I've sat here and thought about it, I don't want Sylvan Scrying banned because I want weird decks with Sylvan Scrying to work. I think that Lotus Field is a little too consistent at a solo player game, and with Impulse, it's only gotten better. I want them to have to work on it. I want them to have to try to kill me on turn 5, right? Yeah. And I think that like Pour Over Pages just like lets them out of a lot of bad hands that they should not be bailed out of, right? Mm-hmm. So that's why I think Pour Over the Pages is a card that should get banned. Also, you know that they could Pour Over the Pages to untap. They can use it to untap their Lotus Fields under Tomic.
Yes,
because it does not target. It just says untap 2 lands.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And then finally, Fires of Invention. This card is not fun. It is the most frustrating part about all of the 5-color piles decks. I don't think 5-color piles should go away. I think Fires should go away. I think if you want to play Enigmatic Incarnation, play it, right? Leyline into Enigmatic Carnation is very cool. I think that's a cool line of play. It's not as fun when you get to like do it for free.
I think you're right in that 5-color piles decks can exist, but you're picking the wrong card.
Yeah, I know you're
Bring to Light. That is the base ban.
The problem is Bring to Light is the worst 5-color pile deck. There's just a very good Bring to Light player in our local area that rolls y'all all a lot.
Yep.
No, I think like I'd rather see like if we want to get really spicy, like I agree. Like Fires is a good ban, right? I think like Escape or Omnath are interesting bans from that deck as well. I think Omnath really.
Y'all ignoring Leyline Binding? Am I the crazy one? Leyline Binding is like stupid.
Leyline Binding is a spot removal spell in white that does not get a lot of spot removal spells.
Yeah.
You know, it's not a white removal spell. It's a 5-color removal spell that costs 1 mana at instant speed.
Look, people can
it's 2 of your things.
I don't think
it only hits 2 of your things if they have like Mom out.
Yeah,
we don't ban. We don't ban Go for the Throat. That's definitely not the reason the deck is broken.
Yeah, no,
Well, hold on.
like look.
Hold on. If Go for the Throat was free, you would go, that's a problem, right? Like if we had Slaughter Pact in this format, you can't just go like, oh, removal spell is the problem. It's a
I'm
1 mana
sorry.
instant speed removal spell. That's what I'm
When
talking
was
about.
it free? Did you say spend 1 mana?
I did say spend 1 mana.
Wow, not free?
Not free. Instant speed.
Like
Leyline
look,
isn't free. It costs folks like you and me.
by the time lane line is free, right? Like it's already turned like 4 or 5. I think like when they're playing it on turn like 3, and when it's just like an instant speed Oblivion Ring, like whatever, right? Because their lands are coming in tapped or whatever. Like it sucks when you're playing like the Rakdos deck, and yeah, you can't do anything with it, right? But if you're playing a green deck, if you're playing a white deck, because guess what, guys? You gotta pack your naturalizes. You gotta pack your enchantment removals. Like people, I'm like people like I'm not saying you're doing this right, but like people in Pioneer players have a history of like losing to a card and then refusing to adapt to it. Right, like pack enchantment removal, pack creature removal for Winota. It's a history of this format. Learn to beat card types.
Yeah. A wise man once told me that if you're only abusing a card at its like best, then that's what the card is for, right? Like you guys wanted to ban Thassa's Oracle, right?
Yeah,
Uh, Leyline Binding is a 1 mana card. It gets played against me on turn 2 frequently, turn 3 very frequently, right? It if and it only costs 1 of whatever mana that they've played. So like that was my point, is that like that's a card that without access to that, if they have to play other removal spells, then I think the deck is a lot more fair, because I hadn't had a problem with the deck. We haven't had seen that deck. The deck was Niv to Light before, right? Now all of a sudden it's this new version of the deck. I think mostly because of Leyline Binding. Like Leyline Binding is the upgrade that have made people even go, oh, I don't need other removal spells, right? Before we were playing Chain of the Rocks and we were playing non-Karuga, we were playing other ones. With the addition
and
of
they're still playing
Leyline,
Chain of the Rocks.
No, they
what's
can't
that?
in Kruga.
They can't in Karuga. It costs 1.
I don't think Karug is the best version of the deck.
Well,
It has
the
been.
point
It's been
is,
popular.
I don't think a 1 mana instant speed removal spell is problematic, especially one that can be also interacted with.
Sure.
Like, would you want to ban Fatal Push? That costs 1 mana. They can play it on turn 1 and kill your
No,
creature.
I want to ban Leyline Binding, a card that
I know.
a card that a card that I've read many a time, a card that interacts with permanents into the battlefield triggers, right? It also interacts with the deck very, very favorably because they're an enchantment deck that they then sack off that 6 mana enchantment and go get an Atraxa, right? Like
Yes.
this is where you guys are missing this point entirely, as far as like it's a 1 mana tool. It's not. It's a permanent that costs 6 mana that gets sacked to go get a 7,
But
right?
I like that.
And costs 1 mana. It didn't cost them 5 mana. It didn't cost them 6 mana. It cost them 1 mana. They then sack it and get a 7 drop if they want to. This is the problem with
you realize
it.
Fires of
All it
Invention
was a
lets
fatal
them
push.
play cards for free, right?
What's that? If all it was a fatal
Fires
push, I
of
wouldn't even
Invention.
be having this discussion.
Fires
Yeah,
of
but Ricky,
Invention.
Fires which makes them play Magic on their turn. They fairy themselves, so
Right.
Fires of
that's
Invention
why it's
gives
fair
you
for
4
Chris.
mana immediately. You play it, it gives you 4 mana. You can't
It does.
respond to it. If you have a naturalize, you can't just like, oh, Fires, I'll just naturalize it. No, they get to play a card for free.
This
They
is
get their
true.
mana value worth immediately. And
This
then
is true.
if you blow it up, that's fine. They still got their mana's worth. And then if they untap, now they're getting 10 free mana and can activate whatever they want to activate with their lands. Like
Yeah,
they get to buy Karuga.
We're
and
having different
play it.
arguments. But we're having different arguments. You're telling me that Leyline Binding is like the worst card. We should all just take them all, light them on fire, because that card does nothing. It doesn't exist. It doesn't matter that it's 6 mana permanent.
The card is
I'm telling
good,
you.
Chris.
I'm
We're not
telling
saying
you.
the card isn't good. I'm saying the card's not ban worthy.
I'm telling you that Fire's Invention is a good card. It is just a card that I'm like, wow, when I see like a problem with a thing, that's like the main problem I see. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you Fire's Invention. Well, what does that card even do? It's a 4 mana enchantment. Learn to play enchantment removal, guys. Learn to play enchantment removal, you know? It's got a free card out of their hand.
Chris is going to work for Wizards of the Coast now.
I'm still on the blacklist. I can't get hired.
Oh no, they're gonna green light you to the top all the way.
Yes.
Okay, do you want
Perfect.
here's a card I want to see if you what the base level of this ban is.
Sure.
Gigantha.
I thought about it.
It's like
including it on my
the
base
last
list.
really free companion.
Yeah.
I thought
I'm fine
about
with
it,
that
but
ban.
like I don't think it should
Gigantha
be.
or Yorion.
I don't think either one should get banned. I think they're fine.
Yeah,
I do think there is cost to Gigantha.
sure.
I do think there is a lot of cost with Yorion. I do want to ban Yorion because I hate bad math.
Sure.
And 80 card deck is worse than 60 card deck. It doesn't mean you get more good cards. That's not how it works. You get the same number of cards. You get them less. I could. Yeah, I'm going to start and I won't stop. Right.
We can't. We don't have time for a 2 hour long episode.
Okay.
So.
Hear me out.
Yeah.
Right.
Let me get the whiteboard.
Keep Karn banned. Old growth troll.
You really hate green.
No, I'm just thinking of interesting cards, right?
Really hate it.
Old growth troll is a card that, like, no matter how you deal with, it's giving them devotion.
I agree, though. I hate that card. I think if you really want to just plummet green players into the core of the earth and like punish them for being absolute degen scum, right? Then you hit 2 cards. I think you only need to hit Karn. I think it's punishing enough.
Yeah,
I
no,
think
I agree.
watching them try to close games with just like random dingus 5/6s and 4/4s is like not a bad strategy, but it's definitely nowhere near as powerful as the deck has been.
Like, I'm gonna be honest, I really just want Pioneer to be a format where I can play mid-range decks that feature either Godless Shrine or Overgrown Tomb.
And with Fable and Karn banned, you can.
Yay!
You're telling me I can play my Siege Rhinos again?
No.
Let's not get too ahead of ourselves.
You can play them.
Shieldred is better.
I need no one to play Rhino because then I owe Chris 3 times my annual War of the Spark boxes.
Speaking of which, we haven't brought up Shieldred this entire time. Any thoughts on old Shelly McShellerson here?
We've learned how to kill Shieldred. Economy.
You guys both went at the same time. Say it again.
Go ahead, Ruckman.
I think we've learned how to kill Shieldred faster than we learned how to kill Winota.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that banning Shieldred would collapse the global economy.
Fair enough.
I'm not kidding. It's literally the most expensive card in Pioneer by a lot, by like a large margin.
Right.
Marge sent you?
Yeah. And
R.I.P.
I just think that literally banning it, it would just Kalidas suddenly have to jump from like a bulk mythic to like $50 again, right?
Kalidas are like Carevex.
Just to curve the money in, money out of Pioneer.
Right.
No, like it's too big to fail, right?
Too big to fail. Yeah, sure.
That
I want to see, like, can we make like the Big Short but Magic cards?
That's been done.
Yeah. Look, they're just bragging about it.
Oh my gosh.
How far down on the list do you guys think the Delve spells are?
So far down.
You think real far down?
Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, they really just haven't been a problem without the ability to filter.
By the Delve spells, you just mean Treasure Cruise? Because, like, what, people play one Dig Through Time and Dimir Control now, and, like, that's it?
I think that Hooting Mandrills has seen more play recently than Treasure Cruise.
You might be right. I mean, Treasure Cruise is in one of the decks like Phoenix, whereas like I think Phoenix is way more popular than the Neoform deck and stuff like that. I'm with you. I think it's a good comparison. I think you make a good point. I think
Pioneer should be the format where Treasure Cruise is a good card.
Yeah.
It would be a really based play.
What?
Banning Redain.
No. Wizards of the Coast doesn't even know what that card does. I don't know what based means. That's a good sign to end the episode.
I just don't think we'll be as based as MBT banning polymerization in Master Roulette today.
I've not seen any show that isn't Prague or History.
Yeah. Man, speaking of based, Gage's deck this week in Prague.
Yeah, Prague was insane. People who say that it's the worst episode are bad.
Yeah.
But anyways.
Like, okay, like at the end of the day, Dust Settles, right? Like, unless like something really crazy happens, I think like if we just get Fable and Karn banned, like
we're happy,
right?
Now I think that list is the most based.
No, I like your extra, like you're the base list, right? I think is good. I agree. Like I think like I don't want to ban Greasefang, right? But I do think like giving them Chariot just to like really draw out games, just make them go for it, right? Or you go play like the Esper builds again, like stuff like that, right?
Right. Make them have to commit to killing me.
Yeah.
Don't let them play the
Um,
slow game until they decide to kill me.
yeah. Like, please don't hurt my ovens or my. I don't think it's. Gosh, can you just? Oh, if I wake up with like Mausoleum Wanderers band, like,
Zach Ruckman has been banned from all tournament play of Pioneer only and
good.
must
I'm playing.
qualify with Modern.
Playing Grand Archive.
I could go play. Yeah, man. We're just only Grand Archive then. Which, speaking of
The,
that, I'm working on some Grand Archive content for the YouTube channel, so keep an eye out for that.
heck yeah, heck yeah.
I'd be fine if they banned something from SAC, honestly. That's not just Fable.
No.
Yeah, I would be okay with it. I would be okay with it. Just because I think it punishes creature decks, which is I liked it. Pioneer, you have to attack and you have to block. You know,
You have
like
to do that with Sack
sure,
eventually.
I
but
think
like
Fable is good enough.
you
Yeah.
also steal their creatures and kill them that way. Like you got
Don't
the
worry.
value.
If it's fine because if we ban something from like that's fine because with Karn being banned, then we can just play Artifact Sack again, and then Oni Cult
Sure.
becomes really good. Then
That's
we're
fine.
just
I
all
think that's it. It's like I still think you have a lot of other avenues if you don't have
yeah.
like a Witch's Oven or something like that. You know.
Chris, what's your base list?
I think my base list is very similar to yours. I think that again, I would delay line binding on there just for the combo potential. That's my personal choice. And then I think I really like it. I would actually rather see Grizzly salvage than Chariot, just because I think the dig power is a little too strong. I'm fine with the backup plan, but I think Grizzly salvage is pretty strong. Like that's where I'd kind of want to start. But I do really like your point. It's like you might be smarter than me on that one. I think that was a really interesting take that I wasn't ready for when I sat down today. So I'm going to give it to you on the Chariot one because I think that's really good. Again, the only card I think I would want to see added here would be a Witch's Oven. That'd be a card that I would rather see more Oni Cult Anvils and things like that, with also Karn Banish, so we can play cards like that. Than like a free like, hey, I can steal your stuff and sack it. You know, that'd be
I think it's okay to ban Witch's Oven because we're about to print Witch's Oven 2 Electric Boogaloo.
Yeah.
There we go. Better
Uchier
with
Oven.
it costs 0 mana.
Sheer Oven, yeah.
Yeah,
I like Eldraine, what I've seen so far and everything. I'm kind of disappointed that we are just doing adventures and food again. But
Yeah.
I guess I'll take any amount of cohesion, even if it's separated by
No,
years,
I
right?
think going back to some of these sets are going to give us a chance to revisit some of these parasitic mechanics, which is a big deal.
Yeah,
I agree. I would like to see some more synergy. I would like to see some decks built around some of those mechanics that like just because I think they diversify the format.
Definitely just ordered foil
How many-
innkeepers and foil clovers.
How many gooses?
I need to go order gooses still, but I got the innkeepers and clovers because they were like 20 cents foil.
Hell yeah.
Here, all right. One last question for kind of bands. What are like say these like just decent bands happen, right? Like we get Karn, we get Fable, we get like a couple other like maybe some of the based cards, just some like cards that just aren't gonna like we feel bad about getting banned, right? What are decks are like? What are some cards you'd like to see opened up?
And that topic for next week, and that next week's ban reaction topic is we
Yeah.
talk about that and what the format
All
looks
right.
like now.
All right, I mean, that's fair.
I think we move on to the Patreon question.
Yeah.
My all I know real quick is that my food tokens are about to hold some scissors. That's all I know. That's what I'm excited
Yeah.
for with Eldraine coming out. Yeah, these food tokens
Or
are
they have to be
five
elves.
fives. They're about to be 5/5s.
Oh man,
All right.
putting the nail files in the cake, huh?
That's right.
Chris is playing Fluffle over here.
The flump check.
Man, should we? I've been watching a lot of some Yu-Gi-Oh stuff, and I would have loved to have played Fluffle, or maybe we'll play some Pearly in Yu-Gi-Oh right now.
There's a shop that's like a little bit out of where I can drive weekly, right? Called like Heart of the Cards.
Ooh, that's based.
And they're doing the most base thing I've ever seen,
Okay.
which is for $20 a month from now, like August 1st, it was the start of it, to the end of the year.
Okay.
You get 6 packs of Legend of Blue Eyes and add 1 pack each week
The Prog series thing.
playing in a league, right? And
Uh-huh.
at the beginning of every month, then you get 6 packs of Metal Raiders, then 6 packs of all the way through to IOC by the end of the year.
Hell
and they're
yeah.
giving out like some huge amount of prize at the end of it all.
That's dope.
So that's sick.
That is
GM
really cool.
Staples.
Congrats to that store. I hope that works out really well for them. What
Well, I
like
mean,
a
like-
cool idea And I really like stores having cool ideas to like bring players in and then have it and then having it work. You know?
Right. I mean, like it's Yu-Gi-Oh's 25th anniversary, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So they blew Wizards out of the water with their 30th anniversary for nobody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Imagine having an anniversary for everyone instead of an anniversary for nobody.
Well, we
Yep.
now know they're just making Magic cards for Post Malone.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
Heck yeah.
Ooh.
Nice.
Well, let's end things off here with Patreon mailbag. We are, of course, supported by our wonderful Patreon, patreon.com/crew3mtg. Several great tiers available. If you are swag bag tier members, I have to apologize. I had to reorder some of the July cards. They're all here now. And by the time you hear this episode out, July will be in the mail to you. So, and then, of course, I was able to also make sure some of our late signups also got covered in that. So,
Yeah, huge. So if you signed up late, a lot of people wanted the swag bag. We had a lot of signups for the swag bag. So
yeah. Now we got to figure out. I'm waiting for Monday. I usually have to order the cards by now, but I'm gonna wait till Monday and we'll see if we can get something spicy.
Yeah, there we go.
Make up something spicy on Monday. All right. But of course, every tier you do get access to our Patreon only channels where we can ask for podcast topics, just kind of see what's going on, get the feel for things. I get exclusive videos or early release videos over on Patreon before they get up to YouTube when Chris does like things like deck techs, things like that for Magic. And then, of course, everyone gets access to the Patreon mailbag channel where you can ask questions that sound something like this. This comes from Kid Win, who asks, what's some of the best or worst food y'all have had while traveling to or from a Magic event?
I know the worst food. Go ahead and tell him, Ruckman.
So neither of us ate this, but this was someone in our car who decided it'd be a really good idea to get buffalo wings from Sonic at 6 a.m. and then had a bad time for the rest of the event. Didn't eat dinner because they were having a bad gastral time.
Right.
On the way back to the car from eating, they go, "I'll catch up with you." And they just walked into a random hotel, and then they caught back up to us at the car like 20 minutes later. They're like, I pleaded for my life to let me use the lobby bathroom. And at one point, as we're driving on the highway, looks out the window and goes, maybe if I, and everyone in the car simultaneously thought, no, you cannot stick your butt out the window as we're driving down the highway.
Yeah.
And then also
just want to get closer to the door so they can jump out of the car fast.
Everyone as he's looking for one, the window is just like, maybe if I, no, you're not doing that. We then stop at McDonald's like 10 minutes from his, like really close to their house. He's like, we have to stop. So we stop at McDonald's.
I can't make it, right? Yeah.
And everyone's like, okay, we're getting McFlurries and ice cream. You cannot have McFlurry ice cream. He's like, that's not an issue.
Yeah.
He's been in the bathroom so long that someone goes to check on him, and our friend comes back and goes, God is testing that man
in there. Don't eat. This episode is not brought to you by Sonic.
It's not sponsored by Sonic.
Do not eat their hot wings.
It's not
at 6 a.m.
So I
don't know why they were selling them at 6 a.m. to be honest.
Right. There's a lot of top tier options for food, right?
Yep.
Jen.
Korean barbecue.
Risky's isn't good, but
it's a lot of food.
It's tradition and it's a lot of food. And honestly, no joke, at DreamHack, I think the best meal we had might have been at Olive Garden. Not really, because we went to Jen, but that Olive Garden was a magical time, actually.
I got you guys in the deep dish ziti appetizer. That's the deep dish ziti, like the baked ziti, right?
Yeah, that was good.
That Olive Garden was dope. I mean, before it closed, the Bird Cafe.
The Bird Cafe, very good.
What was the place, Ricky, you weren't allowed into because they closed the doors?
A Capital Steakhouse or something like that.
Yeah.
That place, I don't know how that place would taste because I wasn't allowed in because I was still playing in the event. That's when SCGs were just like 12 round slogs. 13 rounds. We'll play top 8 in the morning, Yeah.
I mean, to me, like you can kind of find like good food everywhere. I think like the best thing is just like finding a restaurant that you can like set up at like after a long day of playing Magic and just have like fun with your buds. Like
I think it's easy in Dallas. All our answers have been from Dallas, right? Because we're from Texas.
In
It's easy
Austin,
in
if you wake up
Dallas.
at 3:00 in the morning in Austin, you can go to Kirby Lane. That's a good spot if you're in Central Texas as far as like late night eating goes. But if you want a better than Fogo de Chao experience, Estancia, that's a chain that's quite a few places. That's a Brazilian steakhouse. So
I'm thinking more like we got to help the everyman. You know, the grinder.
Whataburger,
You know,
right?
the grinder going out to like literal nowhere, Waco, Texas. You know,
Yeah.
Yep.
and
Hit up
like
that Bubba's.
finding the good places out in like nowhere, right? Like, you know, sometimes there's not much better than Cheddar's in Lubbock, Texas. You know,
Yeah.
after a PTQ, right?
Yeah.
And you know, you find hidden gems like George O's or whatever that
Mhm.
place was called.
Waco, yeah. Mm-hmm.
That
George's,
place
yeah.
was great. Yeah,
Yeah.
George's home of the Big O.
Home
Right?
of the Big O. You got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
I
big
think the big
margarita.
thing is like find a local and have them recommend a place.
That's right.
There was that pizza place
As long as there's no
in
lawyer in San
College
Antonio.
Station. I don't remember. That one was pretty good. It was not terrible. I don't think
there's the pizza place we go to when you're here.
Locatelli's,
just like my local pizza place.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you want everyman options, if there's a Whataburger in your state, you're lucky. That's like a safe fast food place. Pizza. You know, find a good pizza place. They got reasonable reviews. Pizza's going to be good.
What's that one pizza place that you're like Ricky? You're just like Chris is like swears against the devil on. Is it Mafia Pizza or whatever?
Pizza Patron.
Pizza Patron. Yeah.
Chris does not like Pizza
Patron.
Patron.
Kicking and screaming inside of a Pizza Patron. Yeah.
I've honestly had decent experiences at Pizza Patron. It's a little pricier than I want it to be. That's about it.
Really, though, the real pick, Ricky passed over it. But if it's past like 10 o'clock, hit up your local Applebee's for half price apps.
Oh my gosh.
Let the degeneracy flow.
Degenerate Applebee's. Honestly, the restaurant doesn't make the food good at a magic event.
It's definitely the people, right?
The people, right?
Yeah.
You could literally go to Taco Bell at 2 a.m. If you got the whole squad there, it's going to be a good time, right?
Yeah.
As long as it's not a Sonic at 6 a.m.
Exactly, right? That's about the only place I wouldn't
Make
go.
smart choices, you know?
If you are lucky enough to exist in the supply chain of Brahms.
Ooh, Brahms is good.
Brahms is incredible, especially if you're deprived of it. I hear that if you live where there is a Brahms, you become a cold-hearted, terrible person that hates Brahms, like Chris.
Mm-hmm.
How many
not a Brahms fan.
Chris?
How many people I upset by saying, "Hey, In-N-Out's not worth it"?
I actually like In-N-Out. I just don't like I don't like that they ask me when I go through the drive-through.
You want to
in my car? Because it's like, I don't think you need to know that.
You don't know what church I go to, too? Come on now. You know what I'm saying?
I'm also going to
upset Chris
wrap it in a different way.
Hot Dotties is overrated.
Yeah, that is upsetting.
Honestly, is overrated. I've been, like, the last few times I've been, not great.
You guys are crazy. You guys are... I don't understand the world living right now. Hot Dotties is like definitely one of the better burgers. Like it's a burger place, but the queso fries.
Before a PTQ, the toasted yolk in Cedar Park, Texas.
Yeah.
I've never been unhappy there.
Fair enough.
Any Waffle House.
Mm-hmm. Play the credit card game.
There. As long as the Waffle House isn't clean, you need a slightly dirty Waffle House. If you go to a very clean Waffle House, leave. That's a
sting operation by the FBI.
Right. Yeah. Speaking of leaving, I think this episode hour and a half. You know.
Chris's cards have turned to a pumpkin.
That's right.
All right, well, that'll do it for this week. Thank you for the question. Again, Crew3 or patreon.com/Crew3MTG to sign up for a Patreon there to give us a help out. All right, gentlemen, where can they find you on the social medias?
You can find me zeeting over at zeets.com at its_Christmas, and Christmas has no T for now.
Yeah, my ex will also give it to you at also Steve, right?
Yeah.
Where you can see me Xing all of life's quandaries.
Also, shout out to listener Jason, I believe his name was, that I battled against this past weekend absolute pleasure, and it was fun to know that we got people out there. We got slingers out there.
Ooh, slingers.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a gang thing?
Yep.
It
Gotta
can
bleep
be.
that out. Okay. It's gonna be.
Where can
All
they
right,
find you, Ruckman?
you can find me at Crew3 Podcast. You can also find me running things over on our YouTube channel at Crew3MTG over on YouTube. Like I said, me and the wife put up that video where I showed her magic cards and she said if they were good or bad.
It is
So
great. It's the
we'll
best piece of YouTube comment we've ever put out.
we're already discussing recording some more here soon, so get ready for more Cast or Pass. I'm working on some Grand Archive content, some stuff that I'll be putting out, sort of like talking about the game, sort of like introducing the game, maybe going over some decks, stuff like that. Gameplay footage we'll see, because Tabletop Sim isn't the most like fun to use platform, but that's the only online platform we got right now, right? But I do just want to talk more about the game and introduce people to a wider audience. I think the game is really something to look at and get interested in. And then I will be working on a series that won't debut until around the time of what is called the Ascent, which is their first GP, where I will be battling on the Path of Silver, which is essentially a beauty pageant for playing cards and collectible cards. So I'll be working on a short form video series I am calling Deck Boxes and Tiaras.
Yeah.
Sort of
That's terrible.
chronicling the prep work I'm doing for that and sort of like what happens at the actual event and stuff like that. So I'm definitely interested in talking about that, just because whether or not like I don't think we're going to top 8 it, because we're not whaling. We only have 2 CSRs and not like the entire collection of them, right? So I'm not thinking we're going to top 8, but we're going to make a hell of a run for it to try to hit like
We're gonna make a run for it.
we're gonna make a run for it. So I think it's also just gonna be a fun, different type of event for card games to show off and highlight. And I want to do that just to show again. I think why Grand Archive is so interesting, what makes it different from other card games. So be sure to look out for stuff like that. And then Ricky, are you gonna start streaming again soon?
I plan to stream, well, right now, but I guess
Right
like
now.
you can't. It already happened. You missed it.
Yeah.
I plan to stream Wednesday nights after we record. That's
Yeah.
always the plan now.
Cool. And then I need to get better about putting the VODs up on YouTube again afterwards, so people can check that out. Are you gonna do a big One Piece set review stream soon, or what's the current? Are you gonna do more stuff with that soon, or what's the plan?
I
with
don't
the
know
One
what
Piece
I'm planning on doing with that. I might throw it up somewhere if people want to see that content. I might make a YouTube video or something of some stuff. I know I occasionally just drop stuff in the Discord. If you're part of that Discord and you want more information about that project of mine, I'm looking for people to like read things and tell me if they're the cringiest things you've ever seen. So that's what I'm looking for.
Those that don't know what we're talking about, Ricky has been working on for several years now a custom Magic. I mean, it is right.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
It's a custom set built around the One Piece universe, utilizing existing mechanics, brand new mechanics.
It's taken so long that One Piece has come out.
Yep.
And a lot of the cards I've designed have also come out.
All right. Well, that'll do it for this week. We'll talk to y'all next week, and buckle up. Next week we'll have band reactions,
brand new world,
and plenty of spoilers to probably talk about as well.
Yeah, hottest
So
2 weeks of Crew3 history.
We'll talk to you next week. Bye.
Bye.